This is 5 Live Formula One with Jack Nicholls.
Hello, and it's time for the second free practice session ahead of the Australian Grand Prix this weekend in Melbourne. Thank you very much for joining us, and we are set for another hour of practice. After FP1, it was Max Verstappen. You won't be shocked to hear who was fastest, but he was 4 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton, albeit didn't get a run in on his second tyres because he made a little bit of a mistake, did Max Verstappen. And Sergio Perez was third fastest, half a second adrift of Verstappen, but that lap time was on the medium, so still a little bit more to find out as we go into this final hour, although temperatures and conditions are a little different. It's down to 16 degrees, the air temperature in Melbourne, so a little bit chilly at times. Alongside me, I have Jack Aitken. And Jack, it was, well, quite a busy first free practice session, actually. Everybody went straight out, and then there was lots going on, lots of spins, lots of moments, lots of a couple of red flags. It was all kicking off.
Yep, everyone keen to try and get as many laps in as possible and almost tripping over each other at points to try and do so. We had a GPS failure around the track, as we've seen a couple of times in the past before, and this one did bring the session to a halt briefly, but they did manage to get back out for a couple of laps at the end. And and justified, because there is rain around. We have had some rain since FP1, but the track is now dry again, and they are possibly expecting more rain later on. So yeah, everyone's keen to get those dry laps in where they can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And one thing we have seen so far this season, we're only 2 races in, but quite often the Mercedes do look a little closer to the Red Bulls when it's on Friday, and the Ferraris sometimes have their engine turned down, so they look a little bit further away. So there are quite a few caveats coming into this Friday session that don't necessarily play out on a Saturday and a Sunday, but we'll see what happens here. Logan Sargent and the Williams team will be hoping they can get out for this session after the car sort of shut down basically on Sargent right at the end of the first practice session, and no one else had any major dramas. Yuki Tsunoda ended up skidding into the gravel, actually, didn't he, towards the end of that session? Did he? I don't even remember if he went back out. No, he only did 14 laps in the session, so I think after that he remained in the pits and they needed to clear it over. Yeah, exactly. There was that. Yeah, exactly. The very choppy sea out to St Kilda Beach to the south of the circuit, and a fairly chilly day, but the grandstand's absolutely packed, no doubt about that, as they get ready to watch the cars head out on circuit for this final hour. There's 2 guys even eating ice cream, which is, I don't know.
Can't be that cold.
Yeah, 16 degrees is nice. I've always got to be really, really warm to have ice cream. Like if it's just like an all right day, I don't know if I'm. Rosanna, do you want an ice cream? I'm not that I'm offering you one, but will
you send one down from the commentary box, please?
Yeah. Might take
Do
a
not
while.
throw it down.
Yeah.
I think they're quite bold, those 2 gentlemen having their ice cream this afternoon. It is quite chilly, and I remember at the beginning of FP1 I told you there was bright blue sky to my left and there was a little bit of cloud to my right. It's fully overcast now. It is quite chilly, and there is a breeze, quite a significant breeze actually. So it's a bit of a change, and we thought this session would be the most representative, but a bit chilly. And I don't know, I think there is a bit more rain in the area. I was just talking to George Russell's new race engineer, Marcus Dudley. He thinks there is rain nearby, and I know Lewis Hamilton is keen for rain, but more on Sunday, I think, than today.
Oh, I didn't know that Marcus Dudley had got the call up.
Yeah, he switched sides. Well, that sounds controversial.
Yeah.
I do not mean it like that.
Here we go. Rumour mill.
Of course, he was a performance engineer for Lewis Hamilton, but he has moved across to engineer George Russell. And actually, when I was talking to Marcus, I said, how's it all going? And he said, George is pretty, I want to say demanding. Well, that was the sort of phrase he was using. I think he obviously knows how he wants things done. So I think it's a great opportunity. You think of all the opportunities for drivers, but what an opportunity it is to get that role as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He filled in for Pete Bonington, didn't he, on a couple of occasions? Was it last season or the season before when to race engineer Hamilton? But yeah, that's interesting stuff. Right, light goes green at the end of the pit lane, and a huge slide out the garage from Lando Norris. But the light goes green now, and straight away, cars out on circuit, and it is Carlos Sainz who's the first man out on track. I think he was the first man out in FP1 as well, Carlos Sainz, so very keen to get the running in, and they're all streaming out at the start of this second practice session. Sainz, Piastri, Stroll, Norris, Bottas, Russell, Ocon, Joe. I told you it was a good slide.
Yeah, it was.
Lando Norris really flooring it as he came out the pit. Who was it?
I wait for the day that someone gets that wrong, just and clobbers. Have you seen it's now an infamous video on the internet of Pastor Maldonado doing a demonstration in his homeland of Venezuela and getting it horribly wrong, sliding out, smacking a curb sideways with the wheels, and it just is an implosion of metal and carbon. It's really? Quite fantastic.
I don't know if I've seen that, actually.
Yeah.
Sakon Yamamoto crashed a Formula E demonstration car in Tokyo a couple of months ago doing donuts, and what was I going to say? Bottas did a spin in the pits, didn't he? Was that leaving? That was leaving his box, though. I think that was leaving a pit stop.
Yeah, because there was some sort of malfunction that caused that, if I remember correctly. Was that Silverstone?
Yeah, maybe.
People shouting at their radio sets now.
Two people called Jack try and half remember things.
I swear we're professional.
Exactly. Yeah. It makes great radio. Rosanna Tennant. I didn't say your first name when I introduced your second name when I introduced you. This is Rosanna Tennant, everybody, as if you don't already know.
Well, thank you. I'm taking a virtual bow or curtsy. Wasn't it Romain Grosjean in the pit lane at Silverstone? Didn't he come a cropper?
Yeah.
I feel like there was something there at the end of the pit lane. But yeah, it was Valtteri Bottas. He tried to pull away in second. Wasn't that the issue as well? And that's why he had a bit of trouble in the pit lane.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I think it was that.
Good memory.
Yeah. I think so, because I think it was then sort of, I want to say outlawed, that they weren't allowed to pull away in second. But Jack, as a former F1 driver, as we established in FP1, you probably know whether that really is outlawed or not, whether you can get away with it.
I'm very flattered that you think I remember all of these rules, but there are simply too many. I just get told what to do and what not to do.
That's
but yeah,
what the
that does sound.
saying too.
It does sound familiar what you're saying. So yes.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz is out and about, coming through the middle sector now on his medium tyres, throwing it into turns 9 and 10. The quick left, right, and now heading down towards turn 11. And Russell saying light raindrops at turn 3, so that's why they're so keen to head out, although there's still work going on Logan Sargent's Williams, so it doesn't look like he's going to be getting out anytime soon. Magnussen is still in the pit lane, as is Alex Albon. Sainz through the final corner and across the line, and his first lap is a 1:20.3, about a second and a half slower than Max Verstappen went earlier on. He did an 18.7.
That does sort of tally up with the less optimal conditions, because you wouldn't expect that in FP2 they'd pretty much straight away be going as quick or quicker than FP1 with the track evolution you see at these street circuits. But yeah, now on board with Perez, who's starting his lap on a set of softs. He's got quite a bit of traffic around him though. He's already passed 1 or 2 cars, and he's got another couple in front of him as he comes through turns 3 and 4, and he's backed out a bit, maybe because of that traffic.
Yeah, I think there's maybe an Aston Martin just ahead of him, Sergio Perez, maybe Lance Stroll, but it looked as though it was relatively pushing, but he has backed off now, Sergio Perez, and keeps to the inside as one of the other Aston Martins sweeps around the outside of him, and that is Fernando Alonso. 55 minutes and 54, 53, 52, 51 seconds left on the clock. And Kirk says you can get away with only half remembering things because we're all only half awake. So yeah, that's fair.
We're heavily relying on that, guys. Don't let us down.
Verstappen across the line to do a 19.7. He did an 18.7 earlier on. He's on the medium tyres now, whereas he was on the soft tyres before. 0.3 quicker than Charles Leclerc, who's done a 1 minute 20.1, also on the mediums. Everybody on the mediums, bar Stroll and Russell, Norris, and then Gasly, Tsunoda, Hamilton, De Vries, Ocon, Hulkenberg on the hard tyres. Perez has just gone straight out on the soft tyres now. So he doing what Verstappen did earlier on today, and we haven't actually seen a soft tyre run from Sergio Perez because he made a mistake at turn 3 earlier on this afternoon in order when he went out on his soft tyres. Ocon comes through, and it is 5th fastest for Esteban Ocon in the pink Alpine. 1 minute 20.8, but Perez is improving and Alonso is improving as well on this lap. So lots of lap times coming in. Sainz is improving. Tsunoda jumps up to 8th place in the AlphaTauri. Perez through the middle sector now, and he's almost 2 tenths up on Verstappen's time. But again, he is on the soft tyre, Verstappen on the mediums.
He was firing that car in through turn 9 and 10 with a lot of confidence, more than in FP1 already, and they clearly feel that they've got the car in a decent window. He's coming through last few corners now, heading towards turn 13, and he's got another Aston Martin in front of him, which is the reason that he bailed out of the first lap. And the Aston is not getting out of the way pretty resolutely because they want to set up their own laps. So Perez hindered a little bit at the end there, and he's going to come across the line and finish with a 2nd place time of 1 minute 20.083.
3 tenths slower than Verstappen. It was Stroll that he got the traffic from, because the other Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso is just coming around the final corner now, and Alonso goes quickest, a 1 minute 18.887, and that's 8 tenths quicker than Carlos Sainz. So he was fairly big early lap there from Alonso.
I mean, it looked big. He was pushing that last corner a lot harder than I've seen anyone else so far, running out all the way on the exit curve where it's very bumpy and not a lot of space to the concrete wall.
Everybody out on circuit, or well, Magnus has only done an installation lap. Here's Perez's radio.
Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, Stroll screwed him over is what Perez was saying there on the radio. But yeah, everybody out on circuit, Rosanna, except Rosanna.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to list off some people.
No. I was like building the tension. My plan was like to build the tension.
We need to practice this. It's a finish your phrase thing. I get it. We aren't yet finishing each other's sentences.
Sandwiches. Oh.
We are cucumber. Oh no, hang on. Logan Sargent is still in the garage. His teammate Alex Albon's just headed out on track. But Jack, there are things dangling from Logan's car. The mechanics have got it up on the jacks. They're working underneath it. They're working on top of it. They're working in it. One of the mechanics was in the cockpit just a moment ago. There are trays on the floor with all sorts of mechanics tools. And I just looked at one of the guys at the team, and I sort of pointed to my watch and sort of said, how long? And he just shrugged. So I think they got quite a bit of work to do. Precision. That's what this sport's about. Precision.
Have you seen the all-time favourite of a mechanic head first in the cockpit with legs dangling out? That's my favourite.
Just diving in to get the problem sorted. I love that. Now I'm going to have to look it up. So yeah, things not looking good. Things are, as I say, dangling loose from Logan's car.
Yeah, so there's always, when the car shuts down like that, I guess sometimes there's a hope that it is just needs a power cycle, turn it off and on again, and you can get going again. But that sounds fairly serious for Sargent, considering it's been 2.5 hours since he had the problem. Alonso's back in the pits. Gasly comes across the line to go 10th fastest. Magnussen, as I say, is the only driver other than Sargent back in the pits, and he's just done an install lap, Magnussen, and that's all. He did have a moment earlier on today, didn't he? Where was that? He had a
Magnussen?
moment. Yeah. Oh, on the exit.
He went wide at 10, didn't he? Yeah.
But I think he went back out again.
Rough ride, yeah. He did keep going on, but what can be an issue with the electrical side of things is these cars have such... I can't remember the statistic, but a mechanic did once tell me the length of cabling that you have in the car, and therefore trying to find a fault in the cabling, or therefore just replacing all of the looms, can take a very long time. And yeah, it is only a couple of hours between sessions, so it's possible that they are just throwing the kitchen sink at it because they couldn't quite diagnose it and just replace all of it.
Max Verstappen had a bit of a moment at turn 1 a few minutes ago. Just got a bit loose and ended up going over the grass and on the AstroTurf on the exit. But again, another little scruffy moment from Verstappen.
The Red Bull drivers between them have been off on that Astro at turn 1 a few times now, haven't they? And every time it's not been anything super dramatic on the way in that's caused it. It's just been missing the apex by a half a meter or just understeering wide and carrying too much speed. So they're struggling there a little bit for some reason, but then if you're half a second up on everybody, you can afford to struggle a little bit there.
Yeah, Perez is on another push lap now on the soft tyre after he did finish that lap behind Stroll, but lost a bit of time. His first sector now is pretty strong. It's 2 tenths up on Fernando Alonso, but Perez is on the soft tyre, whereas everyone else is on the medium or the hards. Albon comes through the final corner, and he cuts the timing beam and goes 17th fastest. He's on the soft tyres, actually. 2.2 seconds slower than Alonso, and some traffic for Perez. And this time it's Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo. And big old gesticulation from Perez. That was I'm really annoyed, actually. That's not like, what are you doing? Come on, that's He
has had the worst of it this session, hasn't he? He literally did go purple, and then, abort. And meanwhile, Verstappen does finish a lap, which is not quite as good. He's 6 tenths off Alonso now in 3rd.
And then Leclerc jumps up ahead of Verstappen to go 2nd fastest. We're getting a look at Carlos Sainz, who got Traffic City as well, almost into the back of Verstappen.
Red Bull.
The traffic's mad today. Why is it so mad?
I'm just trying to figure this one out myself. Here's Verstappen.
Wait, I don't know, he's on a lap.
Yeah, so a bit of miscommunication there, but you had effectively 4 cars, one of which was pushing, the other 3 all fighting amongst themselves to get position to start the lap. And actually, I think, was that Hamilton or Russell in the Mercedes, but in the melee of the Ferrari being blocked by Verstappen, he took that opportunity to undercut the pair of them on the way out and get track position to start the lap. So it's brutal out there at the moment.
Is it these, because we've seen a few drivers do sort of double cooldowns. Is it the double cooldowns or something? Or
I would bet more likely that they're still having GPS issues, because often when they have issues, it's a recurring theme for whatever reason. I don't know the technical reason why that is, but it does seem to be that a lot of these drivers are not being told, and we see the replay of Perez.
Traffic is horrendous.
Yeah, I don't know what he was up to.
Yeah, so I mean, the engineer normally would just say, sorry mate, the GPS isn't working. So maybe they are just struggling a bit more this track for whatever reason. But there's a lot of people dawdling on the racing line, which isn't great.
Yeah. So Alonso quickest, Leclerc 2nd, Verstappen 3rd, Russell 4th, Sainz 5th, Ocon, Perez, Norris, Hülkenberg, Gasly the top 10, then Tsunoda, Bottas, Hamilton, Piastri and Zhou the top 15. Stroll, De Vries, Albon and Magnussen is on an out lap now, so Magnussen heading back out on the circuit. Here's Russell.
It's raining quite a bit now.
Raining quite a bit, says George Russell, Rosanna.
I was going to tell you that. George got it there first. I'm actually sheltering a little bit under one of the bits that sticks out in the pit lane. Yeah, it is. It's raining. Just little spots of rain. Nothing too bad. But you can see people in the crowd just putting their hoods up, trying to see if they've actually packed an umbrella. Oh, yes, I can see one going up. And it is chilly and it is breezy. So maybe this rain is going to linger for a little while. Maybe Marcus Dudley, the new race engineer for George Russell, was right.
Well, Russell will be hoping that he's right more often than not, won't he? 46 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Everybody is in the pits, bar Sainz, Perez and Magnussen. Magnussen's on his out lap now, weaving from left to right on the medium tyre in the Haas. So he's going to get a lot of eyes on him here, Kevin Magnussen, because I think everybody around the circuit is going to watch him do his lap, because he's the only one doing a lap out of the final corner down towards turn 1.
They're all thinking, yep, you be the guinea pig, see how much grip's still out there. But he's going to start the lap. He was working quite hard to get temperature into his tyres. Dives into turn 1 and doesn't look too bad. He's got some spots on the camera from the rain on the helicopter that we're watching. Going into turn 3, big braking zone all the way out to the yellow line on the exit, where there is also a big concrete wall. Gets as close to that as he dares through turn 4, not using too much of the curve. He's looking a little bit ginger here, but still keeping up some sort of a pace towards turn 6, which is crucial now. Long exit on this back straight. Again, just using a little bit of the exit curve, but no Astro, because he knows that's probably slippy as anything right now. And rolling up towards sector 2 line and into the very fast turn 9, turn 10 chicane. Very, very softly in there. No dart from the front end. He doesn't want to upset the car. Using a little bit of the yellow curve on the exit. Heading into turn 11, big braking zone. Again, all the way out to the yellow line as much as you dare. Using all the curve on the way out, so getting a little bit more confident now. And heading into the final corners, a very slow 13 and 14. No lockups, which is something that they can always suffer from. And through 14, a little bit of a wiggle from the rear. And lots of lifting. You could hear the engine there as he was gingerly getting on and off the throttle. It's only good enough for a 21.2, which is some 2.3 seconds off the fastest time.
Yep, slowest lap time we've seen so far from Kevin Magnussen, or slowest lap time in the session so far, but it is his first run out. Alonso is on an out lap now on the soft tyres, as is Ocon and Perez. They're making a bit of a change by the looks of it to the front of Hamilton's car.
It looks like they're swapping the drums or the intakes for the front brakes there, which you can play with quite a lot to optimize aero. So if it gets cooler and you don't need as much airflow going into the brake drums, you can actually close them off or use a different spec of drum and get more aero benefit as a result of that. And it's a longer change, but then they are not expecting to be out anytime soon, so yeah.
Very interesting. Well, we've got some cars going out on the soft tyre. Through the final corner now comes Perez, but he must be out on the same tyre. I will just check that. But certainly Alonso's gone out on a new set of tyres, and so has Esteban Ocon as he comes down into turn 3 through the quick right-hander now of turn 5 and heading down towards turn 6. He's not really on a push lap on this lap, actually, Esteban Ocon, despite going out on the softs. So we're just getting a replay of Fernando Alonso warming his tyres into the final couple of corners. He's on a set of softs, and is he just going to snatch the left front or something here? I don't know what that was, but he's gone wide at the first corner, Alonso. So he's not going to set the world alight on this particular lap as he goes out on a new set of the soft tyres. Perez has gone out, and he was on he's back in the pits now, so he's just obviously run through the pit lane and then rejoined gone through the pits, back onto the track, and then straight back into the pits. So it wasn't a new set of soft tyres for him. So we'll see what Alonso can do, because he's done a cool-down lap after making that error at turn 1. Norris is out on the soft tyre. Ocon just starting another lap on the softs. Gasly and Bottas are the drivers out on soft tyres at the moment.
So we've got no more rain forecast. Hopefully it will continue to dry up in the next 15 minutes. Suggest we keep running.
Alonso returns to the pits, but Ocon is told no more rain coming. Hopefully it'll dry up, and so let's keep going.
These are the kind of conditions where you will see which teams are a little bit more desperate to get some running in than the others. And we're on board with Lando, and it's now very wet at turn 1. He has a big snap from the rear on the way in, and it just sends him straight across the gravel trap. So it's definitely not very representative at the moment, not very useful. But the teams that are behind in their schedules or have got more work to do are the ones that will be more willing to try and get out there and do some laps.
Less than 41 minutes to go, and we've got still Valtteri Bottas out on circuit. Rosanna?
Yeah, I thought I'd remind everyone that there were a few new engine components taken on that we found out about in FP1, and it's the Ferrari teams that are primarily the problem, and it's the Alfa Romeos and the Hasses taking on new ICEs as I stand here and watch Alfa Romeo receive Valtteri Bottas into his pit box, change of tyres, little practice pit stop there, but he's going to come back into the garage. I don't know. Oh, let's pause.
No, I think we should come in. We've got heavier rain 10 minutes away.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to contest. I was going to say I'm not sure I believe Esteban Ocon's engineer about that rain. I think it is still here. I'm still sheltering, but I will go out and earn my keep, I promise.
No, that's fine. But you sound like you're sheltering near the cars, at least.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm still here.
You're not
I'm
in the hospitality unit.
Put my foot up, or feet up even, not just one. Having
That
a
would
hot
be an odd
chocolate.
look.
That would be strange. Weird things happen down under. But no, I'm still out there, just wishing I'd put my jacket on, if I'm honest, because it has a hood.
When we, back in the day, 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016, maybe 2017 as well. We used to have Tom Clarkson as our pit lane reporter, who's the...
Those are the good old days, eh?
Well, no, because he used to do whole sessions just in hospitality, and you'd be like, Tom, were you not... He'd just think, oh, no, but in here I've got a screen, I've got timing, I've got a coffee. It's like, come on, Tom.
Just stay at home, mate. Just stay at home.
Exactly. But anyway, so...
No, it's great to be here down in the pit lane, I have to say. Always good to spy on what the teams and drivers are doing, but it is still a little wet and still a little wild and windy, and umbrellas are up in the grandstands.
Yeah. Well, everybody's in the pits at the moment. Just saw a replay of Lance Stroll getting right up to the wall on the way into turns 9 and 10. Not quite seen that before.
Because he was so close to the wall that he actually managed to pluck out the little camera that they put on the ground on the entry point to give you a very dramatic shot of the car firing into the corner, and it popped out of the wall because he actually had very light contact. Can't decide whether to be impressed or slightly worried about that.
Yeah, very true. Just looking at a radar on the Alpha Tauri pit wall, and yeah, there's some more rain coming in from the sea sort of direction. There's a lot of work, going on Hamilton's car.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting right into the front end of that Mercedes, and I'm well exhausted on my technological expertise now. So
no, I was pleased with the brake drum stuff. That was good.
My little tidbit.
Yeah,
you got it, and now I'm tapped out. So they're changing something, but clearly not planning on going out anytime soon.
Hamilton is 13th fastest after his 9 laps on the hard tyre. So the order is Alonso quickest on an 18.8, 4 tenths ahead of Charles Leclerc, 6 tenths ahead of Max Verstappen. All of those lap times actually done on the medium tyre. Russell 4th quickest on the hard tyres, Sainz in 5th, Ocon 6th, Perez 7th, Norris 8th, Hülkenberg 9th, Pierre Gasly in 10th, and then Tsunoda, Bottas, Hamilton, Piastri and Zhou, the top 15, Stroll, De Vries, Albon and Magnussen, the 19 drivers. No lap time set then yet from Logan Sargent. As Rosanna said, there's a few bodies up on the start finish straight here and there, a few hoods up, but also people who don't have hoods and brodies up don't appear to be too dramatically affected either. So hopefully it'll clear up a little before we get to the end of the session.
Yeah, if you're Logan Sargent, you're kind of thinking, this isn't so bad actually. I haven't fixed my car yet. Yeah. At least nobody else is getting track time, because that's kind of the mindset that you end up taking. You don't want to miss out. But it does look like it's a bit in between at the moment. If they do have heavier rain coming, then they might be able to get out on the inter or even the full wet. We've still got well over half an hour of this session remaining, so plenty of time.
Yeah, and all the drivers are remaining in their cars at the moment, the majority of them anyway. Fernando Alonso still sitting at the wheel of his green Aston Martin, waiting for a break in the weather. Still the work going on Logan Sargent's car. He's all suited and booted at the back of the garage, Logan Sargent. He hasn't got his helmet on or anything like that, but he's he's prepared if they do manage to get out in this session, so he seems moderately hopeful. Rosanna?
Yeah, I'm just outside Lewis Hamilton's garage where the front end of his car is off. They've had the brake assembly off as well, and it looks like they're doing something with the roll bar. And of course, it's sort of in between FP1 and FP2 that the drivers sit with their engineers and talk about the balance limitations and how to improve the car. And obviously, a lot of that results in the setup changes, like roll bars and suspension being kind of altered and tweaked. But it's interesting that they're doing it now rather than having done it in the break between FP1 and FP2. So, not sure. Do you think there could be an element of adjusting it for potential wet weather? I don't know, Jack.
Well, unless they did a big change in between FP1 and FP2, Hamilton's gone out, been 7/10 slower than Russell, and they've gone, oh, that was the wrong way to go. Let's go back.
It's 50-50 though, Jack, isn't it? It's 50-50. Yeah. You just never know.
Well, I did enjoy the chat with Hamilton on the podcast yesterday, actually, where he was getting really stuck into some detail, wasn't he? But I really wanted to. He was talking about this overnight change that he could have made, and that maybe would have made him better, and Russell did make the change. This was in Saudi Arabia, to get rid of his understeer, and Hamilton didn't. And I was so curious as to what the huge overnight change was. Obviously, he didn't say, but it was very interesting, that interview.
Oh, we've got intermediate tyres on George Russell's car, but the Ferrari going out on, as I glimpsed it, I think the softs. So George
Same
Russell,
old Ferrari, track's wet, out they go on softs.
Throw caution to the wind.
Yeah. It's a new year, new Ferrari.
I know. And it's also not that wet. It's also not that wet.
It's also probably the driest. Judging from that shot of the weather that we just saw, it's probably the driest that it's going to be for a little bit. So if you're going to try it, now's the time to go.
Oh, the tension. Got the radio bleep.
Ferrari have put softs on, surprising.
There we go.
They're just messing with you, Jack.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, George Russell surprised that the Ferraris have put soft tyres on. And so they're out on softs. Russell's out on intermediates. I mean,
it doesn't look that bad at the moment.
No, it doesn't look ready for intermediates.
I mean, yeah, if you're going to pick one, I'd go for the soft. I'm not saying that I would be going out, but I'd pick the soft. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty dry. There's not a hint of spray out on the circuit, so we might see Russell coming straight back into the pit lane. But I'm also interested to see how hard we see the Ferraris push as Sainz comes down into the right-hander at turn 11 at the back end of the circuit. Now through 12, going very steadily, Sainz.
At this level of rain, I reckon 10 minutes into will be viable. Still a little too dry for now.
Copy that.
Definitely not slicks.
Yeah, good information, thank you.
Well, definitely not slicks, says Russell. That's interesting. Well, here comes Sainz down into turn 1. Very, very cautious into that first turn.
Yeah.
Very cautious. He's not pushing here.
No, it does look like that's one of the wetter parts of the track. Yeah, it does just look like it's that horrible in-between phase, because there's no spray, there's no standing water at all, but it is greasy, and that's why he's having to go so gingerly at the moment.
But the Red Bull team, they are just taking off a set of soft tyres that were on Verstappen's car, and through the first sector, Carlos Sainz, Russell's returned to the pits. Sainz, they're about 7 seconds off in the first sector alone. Rosanna?
Yeah, George is in. He's just come into his pit box. Mechanics are there. Obviously, no pit stop practice. They're just slowing. Number one, giving him the thumbs up, and they're going to wheel him back in. But do you wait for 10 minutes and go out again on inters? I mean, it's really difficult with the weather forecast here in Melbourne because it changes on a dime.
Really cruising up. Whoppa.
Carlos Sainz, love that. So yeah, I imagine he'll want to come back into the pits as well and perhaps wait a few minutes and try the green ringed rubber. Try saying that.
No, I won't. Carlos Sainz is coming around the final couple of corners now, and we'll return to the pit lane, I imagine. Here's Leclerc's feedback.
I mean, there's no point driving like this.
No point driving like this, says Charles Leclerc, which I think is just specifically referring to this tyre in this session rather than for Ferrari, as Sainz comes back into the pits. But there's still, it's still not quite rain. You know what I mean? It's difficult to describe. It's not.
It's
quite.
drizzle.
Yeah, it's just drizzle.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, like George says, it's probably going to get there eventually. And actually, I was wondering if Ferrari were going to send Sainz out straight away again after a pit stop with Inters, but they're not. Yeah, it won't take much longer before you are at the stage where Inters can actually survive in those conditions. At the moment, it is a little bit too dry, and you'd be wasting a set of...
Rosanna, I feel like you were about to tell us why you can't predict the weather in Melbourne.
Well, only because they always say 4 seasons in a day, and it just changes so quickly. It is pretty heavy here now. Ferrari are wheeling out what I can only assume is a tyre stack of Inters. The Alpines have just gone out on Inters, and Lewis Hamilton's car has just been fired up. The cameras are being ushered out of the way. I'm trying to shelter by a nice warm tyre blanket. He's about to go, and I imagine, yes, I can just spy the green ringed rubber. That's my new catchphrase. It's pretty hectic here. All of the mechanics trying desperately to get the tyres out from the backs of the garage where they keep all of the tyre stacks so that they're ready. But I was thinking, I reckon the producers of Drive to Survive, the Netflix series, probably clipped up Charles Leclerc's little comment there. No point driving like this. And they'll probably use it for something else, somewhere else.
On this.
You're not getting any comment from me. Right.
The track is wet, so they must use wets.
Yeah. So cars out on circuit, then Esteban Ocon out, as Rosanna said, and he's out on circuit. Hamilton out there as well. Super tentative, Esteban Ocon.
Yeah.
He comes through turn 7 and 8, almost like he's doing a. I mean, he must be doing about 50, 60 miles an hour there. He's almost at pit lane speed limiter.
Yeah, it's too slow to be doing an aero sweep.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's doing. Does he have an issue, perhaps? That's a lot of vibration on the car, but you can get that resonance at lower speeds. Maybe he's just taking it easy to sight out his first lap. But yeah, Hamilton out as well. It'll be interesting to see what he picks up on. He's obviously pretty experienced in these conditions, and he is cracking on at a normal speed as the camera picks him up now. And it did look like there was just the faintest bit of spray starting up.
I wonder if we'll see if Ocon returns to the pits, because it's very, very strange what he's up to. Hamilton into the final couple of corners now. Said yesterday he was hoping for rain. Oh, I thought he was maybe going straight on, and he actually dives back into the pit lane, Hamilton. So he's decided that, again, with this sort of in the middle bit of weather, there's almost not a huge amount to learn, because the track isn't quite ready for intermediates. Gasly's returned to the pit lane now.
Yeah, I mean, we just got a close-up of Hamilton's tyres as he boxed, and they don't look chewed up, as you would hope after just one outlap, but they did still have a bit of water hanging around on them, so they weren't hot. You know, they were surviving, but he obviously just feels that it's not that useful at the moment to be out there. Gasly is heading out as Ocon does box as well, so he may have an issue, and yeah, still not many people taking the bait.
26 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Gasly coming through the middle sector now as he heads towards turns 9 and 10. Rosanna?
I've just watched Lewis Hamilton be wheeled back into the garage, and the mechanics were really keen to keep the tyre blankets on the intermediate tyres, which makes me think they're going to go again. But I've just fired up my weather forecaster, and it does look like tomorrow it's just going to be grey and no rain, and then full sun on Sunday. So I'm quite excited about that, and highs of 19. But that means that Sir Lewis Hamilton probably won't be, because I think he was hoping for a little jeopardy thrown into the mix on Sunday to help their chances and push them up the grid. Lewis's car's now been switched off, but the the blankets are still on.
Yeah, Hamilton saying yesterday wouldn't mind a little bit of rain. Into the pits now comes Pierre Gasly, and so that is the end of his little foray onto the circuit on the intermediate tyres. So everybody now is back in the pits with 25 minutes and 32 seconds left on the clock. Again, the mechanics who are out there to get Gasly's car aren't, you know, some of them are in short sleeves and not taking cover, so it is just that drizzle at the moment.
I mean, I wouldn't judge weather by mechanics' clothing.
Yeah,
I've seen
true.
mechanics that wear shorts in negative degrees conditions, so yeah, not to be trusted.
25 minutes remaining. So, and now firing up is Max Verstappen. So everybody's giving it a go, aren't they?
One at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, or are we not bothering now?
No, they
Verstappen
need to
going
get
up.
someone wasn't quick enough with the tyre blanket and got trapped under the car. So they needed a bit of assistance to free that blanket, but Max does now head out.
So intermediate tyres for Verstappen. He's going to do a practice start as well at the end of the pit lane. So puts it into gear, raises the revs. Actually it wasn't too wheel spinny there, that from Verstappen. As he comes out onto the circuit now on the intermediate tyres. It's quite misty down at turns sort of 1 and 2. And then the run down into turn 3.
And you can see the wheel tracks now from the there's still no spray, but it's damp enough that as Verstappen's running, you can see where he's been, as it were. And it's definitely wet enough to be out there. People, I think, like Rosanna mentioned, just not interested because it's not predicted to be wet this weekend, particularly on race days. So, you know, you're risking the car at a street circuit, which is, you know, there's always a higher chance that you're going to do significant damage.
Yeah, it's definitely raining here.
Very astute. And yeah, it's just that risk of damage because you never know what can happen, even if the driver says, yeah, I'll take it easy, I promise, or it's not that wet. Yeah, they clearly don't feel it's worth it.
Rosanna?
I'm having a stare off, Jack. I'm standing in the sort of little corridor that Ferrari have at races out to the pit lane where they have all their tyres. Guess who I'm staring off?
Will Buxton.
No. He's actually out in the rain. Toto Wolff. No, Toto Wolff.
Oh.
He is standing on the Mercedes pit wall with a hood up, standing behind his race engineer, Andrew Shovlin, and Ron Meadows, the team's sporting director. And he's just leaning on the banister behind the pit wall, just sort of observing. And I just kept staring at him. He's got a hood. I don't have an overcoat or anything. And it's really heavy, like really heavy rain coming down now. But Ferrari going out on the Inters. So out they go. But I'm not sure. Would you sit tight? Would you get out there? Oh, it's too difficult to know. As Max Verstappen on the Inters. He's going to the end of the pit lane as well, as is a Haas car as well. Oh my gosh, I'm getting in the way of the tyres. I'm going to move.
Okay. Yeah, heavy, big dramatic coat for Toto Wolff. Looks like a bit of a Sith Lord almost wearing that. So Verstappen's done an install lap and then come back in. I think we're seeing drivers head out now because it feels like it's wet now for the rest of the session, isn't it? And there's enough rain now, especially down at turns 3 and then towards 4, that the intermediate is certainly the tyre to be on, and it is kind of getting actually wet.
Yeah, there's spray now. And like you say, they're kind of, yeah, you're resigning yourself to the fact that it will be wet for the rest of the session, and the fact that if you don't want to run in the rain, you obviously won't do any laps. So it's fighting with that versus, you know, what we were saying earlier of how useful is it, how much risk are you taking. They're all racers down there in the pit lane, so there will be some itchy hands saying, oh, we'll just do a few laps, we'll just see what it's like. And I'm sure that there'll be some drivers asking to go out and just sample it. But yeah, it is wet now.
Who's your staring contest with now, Rosanna?
No, I've got so many things to pick up on. It's wet. Oh, now I can't stop thinking of wet.
Yeah, but they're New Zealand. They're New Zealand, not Australia, so you can't be referencing wet in
still
Australia.
Antipodean with Marty Pello.
Oh no, hang on. I'm thinking of Crowded House, aren't I? Wet aren't New Zealand.
Wet, Marty Pello.
Yeah,
I think
sorry.
Is he English?
Yeah. I was thinking of Crowded House. Sorry.
That's
Everywhere
okay.
you go, always take the weather.
Yes. Weather with you. Yeah, absolutely. It feels like that right now. Lando Norris just had another little moment in the pit lane, quite sort of slidey. No, what I wanted to tell you earlier, actually, and I got a bit sidetracked as Ferrari bring in.
Wet are Scottish, apparently.
Oh my goodness, we are so off with our guesses.
I know.
Sorry about that. I wanted to say that actually while I was waiting for FP2, I was near the Mercedes hospitality in the paddock, and one of their top engineers walked past, and I was like, how's it looking? And he went, what, the weather or the car? And I said, both. And he went, terrible, both. So, and at that point it wasn't raining. So, yeah, dear me. Got a huge spray being kicked up off the start-finish straight, actually. So it is obviously quite bad out there.
Yeah. We're getting a look at the McLaren of Lando Norris, the helmet camera from him, and it is streaming down. Sorry, it's Piastri, and it's streaming down as he comes out over the start-finish straight. It's not torrential or anything. It's just quite regular rain now. But this will be the first time that these cars have been driven in the wet. Maybe some of them would have done their shakedown day or filming day, and it might have been a bit rainy at Silverstone or Imola or wherever they did it, but they haven't actually done any proper running in the wet, because we've done the first 2 races of the season and the pre-season test in the desert.
Yeah, and going at 80% in the rain versus 100% is quite a different matter, and doing it for the first time on a street circuit adds another bit of jeopardy with all the white lines that we've got. Although they do use nowadays a special gritted paint to make them less slippery, they are still less grippy than normal tarmac, and all of the curbs and AstroTurf that line the track extremely slippy as well. So if you end up wide on any of those, it can spell disaster pretty quickly. So Piastri is just working his way into it here, slowly carrying more and more entry speed as he gets a bit more confident. But yeah, there's pretty hefty spray coming off the intermediates now, and if it keeps going this way, I wouldn't be surprised if people start swapping over to a full wet right at the end. We're on board with Lance Stroll. Just a replay of him at turn 3, going into turn 4.
Whoa!
Big old snap of oversteer as he gets on throttle.
Carooned it. Coming out of turn 3 in a green car, got on the throttle, back end snapped out, managed to keep it out of the wall, but that kind of came out of nowhere, but it caught him by surprise. And
that is exactly the kind of incident that the teams, that's why they withhold drivers from going out when they know that it's not really useful for the weekend. Something really silly like that, and you could hit the wall and a wishbone could drive its way through your chassis, and suddenly you've got an all-night job on your hands for the mechanics.
Max Verstappen returns to the pit lane, having done a few laps on that intermediate tyre. Gets lifted up, the trolleys go underneath, and he'll get rolled back into the garage. So Norris is out on circuit, Alonso has just left the pit lane, Hülkenberg is out there, Stroll, Piastri, Albon and Magnussen, and they're all doing, well, they've all done multiple laps so far. They're not just doing a out lap, they are carrying on. We'll see what Alonso does as he comes now into the final couple of corners. Slow left-hander at turn 13, then out through turn 14 and stays on circuit and comes down towards turn 1, up through the gears and tentatively into the first corner, and then heading now down towards turn 3. Hülkenberg in the Haas remains out on circuit too, so some teams and drivers really thinking this is worthwhile. Alonso has a little squiggle on the exit of turn 3 like Stroll did, but nowhere near as dramatic. Now through turn 5 and heading down towards the quick right-hander at turn 6, which he's taking at 80 miles an hour. Now, he's 8 seconds down after sector 1. Piastri was 9 seconds down after sector 2. So, admittedly, sector 2 is pretty much was one corner, really, sector 2 now. So as Alonso comes through there, but he has been caught by the Haas of Hulkenberg, so he's taking it steady at the moment, Fernando Alonso.
Norris has done a 33.4, which seems to be the quickest time that we've seen so far in these conditions, which are changing anyway all the time. They're deteriorating, really. Magnussen did a 34.9, if I can get my words out. Piastri at 34.0, so not too far off his teammate, only 0.6 off. Who else is out there doing representative times?
Hulkenberg's about to finish a lap in the other Haas. As he comes into the final couple of corners, he just overtook Fernando Alonso. Getting a look at Stroll coming down into turn 3 and snatching the right front and ending up going through the gravel. So not having fun in the rain, Lance Stroll, especially down at turn 3. Hulkenberg comes through, does a 35.0.
You would have been held up a little bit by Alonso on that lap as well, but yeah. You just see Stroll over the bumps in that braking zone, snatching a front right, and the engineers were getting pretty nervous, I would have thought. But the early laps in your running are always going to be the worst, so hopefully he's going to settle into that. Russell now starting a lap through turn 1. No major dramas for him as he winds through turn 2 as well, heads down towards that braking zone we just saw Stroll go wide at. Manages to slow the car down, no problem. Another big old kick of oversteer as he gets on the power, the same as Stroll and Alonso both did. But he carries on, staying well off the curves, not using any of them at the moment. And in sector 1 looks pretty good at the moment, only 5.7 down on the fastest time of the session so far.
Less than 14 minutes to go.
And Piastri has done a 33.1, so he's improved and is looking pretty good out there in the wet now as well. Russell coming into turn 9, carrying some good speed, looking fairly comfortable. He did, of course, have that sighting lap earlier on when it was much drier in the session, so it'll be quite different conditions to what he saw. And we're just going to get a replay of that big snap when really we want to see him finish this lap. But there you go. Can't have everything. Hulkenberg has gone on to do a 32.9, so as far as I can see, that is the new quickest in these wet conditions. His teammate Magnussen also on a 32.999, just sneaking under the 33. So both the Haas's going pretty well with their experienced lineup.
And Hamilton's gone out on intermediate tyres too, so quite busy out on circuit, Rosanna.
I am down in the pit lane, and I'm sorry I went away for a while because I had to go and get my raincoat because it was bad enough to warrant it. So I had a little change of attire.
An outfit change during a free practice session. I like it.
Jack, you didn't pick up on that.
Oh, hang on.
A change of attire. Yeah, I know. Producer Joe and I have been working on that together.
Are you now in your green ringed rubber?
No, I'm in a raincoat from a reputable supermarket in the UK, so I could be soaked through in a matter of minutes. But hey, I thought it was the right strategy call to go and change with 12 minutes left on the clock. I thought that was
Did the producer come on the radio and say, box, box?
Yeah, exactly. So I literally ran to the media centre, which is my little pit stop, and I've got changed. But I'm back here for you now, so I'm going to be up and down the pit lane, whereas a lot of people have failed.
Great news. Bit of a slow stop, but
stop it.
But
I didn't even have time to refuel.
Oh, really?
No, I've even got a little chockey bar in my bag. I didn't even have it. No,
okay, we don't need to hang on. Where are we going now? No. 11 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Fade her out, Joe. Fade her out. Alonso is quickest and will remain quickest until the end of the session. Hamilton out on the intermediates and flicks it through the left and right at turns 9 and 10. Heading down now towards turn 11. Still up to 174 miles an hour before getting onto the brakes into that right-hander. He was another who had quite a big snap coming out of turn 3, so that sort of slow speed traction and turning seems to be catching a lot of people out.
It's definitely a problem area for them, isn't it? And yeah, lots of drivers finding it out one after the other. The McLarens are having a great battle between the pair of them to have honours of quickest in the wet. Obviously, that's not going to mean anything come the end on the proper standings. But Piastri is on a 31.2 and is pipped Norris by 1/10 at the moment, who's on a 31.3. So really, it seems like the McLarens just need a bit of rain and they'll be all right.
Yeah. Certainly looks that way, doesn't it? JJ Jackson asks on hashtag BBC F1, will these conditions result in the washout of long run corner? I think it will, I'm afraid, JJ, because we're not getting any long run pace here. But encouraging for Piastri to be getting that sort of close to Norris, as it were, because we know Norris is a bit of a wet weather specialist, except when he's on slicks in Sochi, but and everyone else is on inters. But yeah, that's encouraging, because those changeable conditions are where drivers really. Do you like the rain? Do you like? Are you like?
All British drivers like the rain, don't they?
Yeah.
Or is it, someone once said, we don't like the rain, we're just used to it. It's,
yeah.
You know, you spend your whole junior career running through sodden tracks in the middle of nowhere, getting very used to it. And yeah, it's, I think it's a talent a lot of the British drivers share. So to see it from an Aussie in Piastri is quite impressive. Of course, he did then.
Yeah.
He, I guess, from an early age was racing in the UK.
But when it rains, are you like, oh yeah, here we go, or are you like, really?
I mean, more the former, yeah, because cool. I know that others don't like it, and although I don't like getting wet, I now race a closed cockpit car and don't have to deal with that, so it's
even better.
Luxury, and yeah, I do enjoy it.
So what, in the single seaters when it rains, you don't enjoy getting wet?
I enjoyed it like a few percentage points less. Yeah, especially the waiting on the dummy grid before going onto the track, because you are inevitably somewhere very exposed. And probably with like just the right angle of a pit building roof that's dripping ice cold water onto your lap. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true actually, especially because it's probably not too bad in F1, but there's a lot of sitting around waiting in assembly areas and stuff like that in the junior formula, I imagine.
Yeah, oh, the glamour of junior motorsport.
Yeah. Into the pits now comes the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. It's Hulkenberg. It's
hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's the yellow dash on the top, but I feel like I haven't seen enough of Hulkenberg yet this season to work out which is which. Rosanna?
I'm just watching some of the Mercedes garage technicians use the leaf blowers that you'll see them use to cool the tyres down when they come into the pits. They're using them to actually disperse the water that has started to settle in their pit box. So, yeah, there's enough water to warrant that. So it's been quite a bad downpour, I tell you. Believe me.
I do believe you. I never didn't. Okay, interesting stuff. Still got cars out on track, even though the Haas returned to the pits. Joe is still going in the Alfa Romeo. Piastri is still lapping as well. Albon and Magnussen out on circuit. Hulkenberg went through the pit lane but has now rejoined. Tsunoda is out on circuit too with 7 minutes and 23 seconds to go.
Russell and Albon both on a 1 minute 30.6, and meanwhile Piastri has improved yet again to a 1:30.2, so still retaining that honour of current fastest, as conditions are now looking like they're getting slightly better.
Nick De Vries, on the other hand, is fully out of the car and standing over on the pit wall having a chat to some of the engineers at AlphaTauri.
Yeah, just again it comes back to what we were saying earlier. Some drivers will just not be bothered at all by laps in the rain at the moment, because it's very, very likely the rest of this weekend is going to be dry. So it is just an unnecessary risk to some. Others just want to have fun.
Cyndi Lauper. Was it Cyndi Lauper? Girls just want to have fun. I can't remember. I don't know why I'm getting down in all this. It was. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting stuck down in all this. 6 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Sound you can hear is Hulkenberg coming into turn one now. Fights the car a little bit. Oh, this is a good one from Bob on hashtag BBC F1. The only car crash is this broadcast. So poor. 60 minutes of snorting and giggling. Pathetic. Oh. Thank you for tuning in, Bob.
Where did we have the snorting?
Yeah.
Maybe that's to come. Can we add that in?
Maybe. Hulkenberg through the right-hander of turn 6 and now heading down towards the quick kink at turns 9 and 10. Verstappen has joined the circuit as well now on the intermediates. No change in the lap times, of course, because they are running just about 10 seconds or so off the pace. Fernando Alonso will end the session fastest again. He's topped quite a few FP1s now this season. Oh, sorry, free practice sessions this season. 4 tenths quicker than Leclerc. Verstappen in 3rd, Russell 4th, Sainz in 5th. Ocon, Perez, Norris, Hulkenberg, Gasly will be the top 10. Tsunoda, Bottas, Hamilton, Piastri, Zhou, the top 15. Stroll, De Vries, Albon, Magnussen, the 19 drivers to have set the lap time. Logan Sargent not getting out there in the Williams after he broke down in first practice earlier on today. 5 minutes left on the clock. Hulkenberg comes across the line, and it is a 1 minute 30.7 for Nico Hulkenberg. 12 seconds off the pace of Alonso, but sort of in keeping with other people's pace out there at the moment.
Albon last time around was on a 1 minute 30.1, which I believe is the new fastest wet time, as much as we can keep track of that in these conditions. But yeah, so the Williams looking pretty handy, as well as the 2 McLarens who are, as you say, still, or at least Piastri is still out there and we're on board with him now. It's just getting laps in, isn't he? He's just pounding around.
He's looking quite quick, actually, through turns 9 and 10 that time.
Well, he's been, until Albon put that lap in just now, he has been the quickest on track pretty much through this entire spell. So he's looking very comfortable now.
Down into the left-hander of turn. Oh, so close to the white line on the exit. And I think that might have just scuppered him a little because he was right up by the yellow lines in Albert Park, but right up to that yellow line and grass combo. And Piastri comes across the line down towards turn 1. Did a 30.6 still.
Yeah, he just got onto that line, as you say, and it almost kicked the rear around a little bit, unweighted the inside front left tyre, and then it locked, and yes, started running out of road fairly rapidly. We are seeing some dry patches appear on the track now, so I mean, this set of inters is going to be trash after the session anyway, so they're not worried about running them into the ground, but these are the kind of conditions where you would start to be thinking a Jenson Button might be diving into the pits right now.
Yeah, what was that, 2010 or 2011 when he came into the pits and went off actually at turn 3, and then still went on to win the Grand Prix. Less than 3 minutes to go. Piastri coming up to turns 9 and 10 again, and he's finding time all the time as he swings through the left and the right, and now down towards turn 11. Verstappen out on circuit, Russell out on circuit, Norris is back out, Tsunoda, Bottas, Zhou and Albon are the other drivers lapping. We'll see whether Piastri can get to the top of our unofficial prediction wet times. Oh, it's another lock-up on the left front for Piastri at the penultimate corner. Now comes out through the final corner, and it is a 1 minute 30.1 for Piastri.
Unfortunately for him, Albon did a 1:29.0. So I think where Albon has come out a fair bit later than Piastri, and he's got slightly fresher rubber, he's been able to take advantage of the drying track, whereas people who have been out there that little bit longer, they're just going to be feeling like they're driving on bubblegum at this stage, and it can be difficult to go faster even as the track dries out because of that overheating.
Weather clearing, no rain coming down at the moment as George Russell comes into the final 2 corners. Teammate Hamilton still in the pits. Russell is on an out lap and now starts a lap down towards turn 1. Basically no spray coming off the rear of the car at the moment. Not ready for dry tyres. I'm not suggesting that, but it certainly has dried up, and there are dry patches as Russell comes down towards turn 3. into the tight right-hander. A little bit of a wheel spin on the exit, but nothing particularly dramatic for Russell as he comes through sector 1. Stroll has just left the pits, as has Fernando Alonso. So Fernando Alonso joining the circuit on the intermediate tyres as well, with less than a minute to go. And the teams didn't get to do a practice start in FP1, so maybe going out to do it in FP2, which is something new that has cropped up over the last couple of years, doing the practice starts at the end of every free practice session. It used to only happen on sort of special occasions like Monaco, but now it's every session. Rosanna?
Well, actually, on that note of practice starts, Jack, what I've been noticing is that the cars are practicing at the end of the pit lane. And of course, this is the first time that they've practiced on intermediate tyres with these new types of tyres, this new type of car this season. Because, of course, as you said earlier, we've only really been in desert conditions. So there's been no chance to see what these are like, these tyres and cars are like in these conditions. So I'm surprised more weren't doing it earlier on. It was Aston Martin and Red Bull that were doing it to start with.
So, checker flag is out. Session comes to a conclusion. Russell got on the brakes quite dramatically there towards the end. I don't know if he was trying to get another lap in or try and take the checker flag.
He was trying to take the checkered.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Did he manage it? Yes, he did manage it. He's another who had quite a big lock-up at the penultimate corner and skidded straight on and just about kept it on the tarmac, but went far deeper than he would have wanted. And then rejoined the circuit. Alonso's taken the checkered flag now as well, and so for Fernando Alonso, basically just doing an outlap in order to get onto the circuit at the end of the session. So checkered flag falls, and Alonso is quickest on a 1 minute 18.887, 4/10 quicker than Charles Leclerc, 6/10 quicker than Max Verstappen. Russell 4th, Sainz in 5th. Russell's lap was on the hard tyre as well, actually, in 4th place. Ocon 6th, Perez 7th, Norris 8th, 9th for Hülkenberg, 10th for Gasly. Then Tsunoda, Bottas, Hamilton, Piastri and Zhou, the top 15. Stroll, De Vries, Albon and Magnussen, the 19 drivers to set the lap time. Logan Sargent did not. Right, what do we make of this today then? Because, I mean, we know Red Bull are the quickest, we know the pecking order, and they have looked fast, but there's little signs of hope for Ferrari and for Mercedes, but you don't want to get too sort of caught out by that hope.
No, I think they are still the favourites, and even if they had a few little moments here and there between the two, Verstappen and Perez, they seemed pretty assured for the most part, and yeah, the times were pretty convincing as well when the track was dry and they were getting their laps done. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how close Alonso can get to them. I think Ferrari are going to have quite a bit in the pocket in the engine department if they are going to challenge them. And Mercedes, while they may feel that they're closer, they are still a ways off, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Charles Leclerc's car is up on the stands. A virtual safety car they've just put out. There was a yellow flag in Sector 3, but I wasn't sure if that was just for the practice starts to remind people that to slow down. But then the virtual safety car's deployed, which is a bit of an odd one. But the practice starts now getting underway on those intermediate tyres. Rosanna, this will be a bit of a frustrating second session, I think, for most of the drivers out there.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, Logan Sargent even more so, because he was complaining in FP1, wasn't he, about bottoming out. Then he had the shutdown, and then he's not really been able to get out and set a time. So I think it's been an interesting Friday. I'm going to watch with bated breath and listen to what the drivers have to say after these two sessions. I think we talked about rhythm being lost in FP1. I think the rain will have put a cat amongst the pigeons. How useful was this afternoon's running? I'm not sure. Maybe the teams have better weather forecasting data than I do. I think it's going to be a fair weekend in terms of the weather. So, yeah, not sure. Maybe just getting data for future races. Maybe Imola, it was such a wet race there a while ago. So maybe they're just preparing themselves for that sort of thing. I'm not sure. But, yeah, an interesting Friday.
I presume the teams don't just use a free app on their phone, which presumably you do.
So very rude of you to suggest that.
Well, no, unless are you signed up to some like 50 quid a month
There's a
weather
very good
forecasting
Norwegian
app.
site. There's a very good Norwegian site that I know actually a lot of Australian farmers use. So you can try that if you want.
There's a
Yeah.
what? There's a
Yeah, we'll take this offline. I don't want more tweets about a car crash of a broadcast.
Yeah, that was just Bob. That was just Bob. I was concerned we were going to do even more advertising after
No.
Aiken was trying to flog Boss
I'll get him
Ass's
to
gin
voice
this
it
morning.
tonight, ready for FP3.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Right, well, join us tomorrow for FP3. It's the same times as today, so the session gets underway at 2:30 in the UK. You can hear it on 5 Sports Extra. Qualifying, though, gets underway at 6 a.m. on 5 Sports Extra and the BBC Sport website as well. The battle for pole position for the Australian Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso quickest in a unrepresentative second practice session. He set his time on the medium tyres. It means that their teams will have a bit of work to do in FP3. They'll need to do some long runs, they'll need to do some quali sims, so it could be fairly busy. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. We'll speak to you tomorrow.